Emma never expected her life to change because of a forgotten notebook. On a cold, rainy morning, she opened her apartment door expecting nothing more than a package she had ordered online. Instead, she found an old leather journal. No stamp, no address, no sender, just a weathered brown book resting quietly on the welcome mat. At first she assumed it belonged to a neighbor, but when she opened the cover, her heart nearly stopped. Written in faded black ink were three simple words: property of Emma Carter. Emma dropped the journal because she had never seen it before, and yet somehow it already belonged to her. Emma was 29 years old. She worked as a graphic designer and lived alone in a small apartment building. Her life was wonderfully ordinary. Wake up, drink coffee, miss deadlines, promise herself she would exercise tomorrow, forget again, repeat. Nothing mysterious ever happened to Emma, at least not until that morning. She carried the journal inside and carefully examined it. The leather looked decades old. The pages were yellow. The edges were worn. It smelled like dust, rain, and forgotten history. The first few pages were blank. Then she reached the first entry. Her hands began trembling. The date written at the top was from 15 years ago. Yet the story described a conversation Emma had with her boss just 3 days earlier. Word for word. Even including a joke about office coffee tasting like burnt sadness. A joke Emma herself had made. She laughed nervously. Okay, that's creepy. Then she turned the page. And things became even stranger. The next entry was dated tomorrow. Not yesterday. Not last week. Tomorrow. Emma frowned. Then she began reading. The journal described her entire upcoming day. Every detail. Missing the bus. Spilling coffee on her white shirt. Accidentally sending a meme to her manager. Emma rolled her eyes. Nice try. The next morning she woke determined to prove the journal wrong. Everything started perfectly. She caught the bus. No coffee accidents. No embarrassing messages. She smiled triumphantly. Then her phone slipped from her hand. The bus driver slammed the brakes. Coffee exploded across her shirt. Several passengers laughed. Emma stared in horror. Hours later, she accidentally sent a cat meme to her manager. Exactly as written. That night she ran home and opened the journal again. For the first time in her life, Emma was afraid of a notebook. Over the next week, the journal continued predicting events. Some were serious. Most were ridiculous. One page warned, "A pigeon will steal your sandwich at exactly 12:14 p.m." Emma laughed. At 12:14 p.m., a pigeon landed on her table, grabbed her sandwich, and flew away. Another prediction read, "Do not trust the vending machine." Emma ignored it. The machine immediately swallowed her money. Twice. Emma stood there staring at the machine. "Who are you working for?" A nearby coworker slowly backed away. Soon the journal became both terrifying and oddly useful. Emma stopped carrying umbrellas when it predicted sunshine. She avoided traffic jams. She even won a small lottery scratch card. But every page raised a terrifying question. Who was writing it? And how? One evening, Emma discovered a folded photograph hidden between 2 pages. The photo showed a young woman standing beside an old house. The woman looked exactly like Emma, but the picture was taken decades before Emma was born. Written on the back were the words, "Find Evelyn." The next page contained an address. After hours of hesitation, Emma drove there. The location led to a tiny bookstore squeezed between 2 abandoned buildings. Inside, she found an elderly woman arranging books. The woman looked up, smiled, and said, "You're late." Emma froze. "Do I know you?" The old woman laughed. "No." Then she pointed at the journal. "But I know that book." The woman's name was Evelyn. She explained that the journal had appeared throughout history many times, always finding someone whose life was approaching a critical turning point. No one created it. No one controlled it. It simply appeared, guiding people when they needed it most. Emma struggled to believe any of it. Then Evelyn revealed something impossible. The woman in the photograph was Emma's grandmother, a grandmother she had never met. And years earlier, the same journal had found her too. Emma's mind raced. What happens when it finishes? Evelyn's smile faded. No one knows. Over the following days, the journal's predictions became more serious. The jokes disappeared.
The tone changed.
Each page seemed to be leading Emma somewhere. Finally, she reached the last unwritten section. Only one sentence appeared. Go to the lighthouse at sunset. That evening, Emma drove to the coast. The sky burned orange and gold. Waves crashed against the rocks below. She climbed the old lighthouse stairs. At the top, she discovered a small metal box. Inside was a collection of letters. Family letters. Decades of stories. Dreams. Photographs. Secrets. The history of generations she had never known. Among them was a final note addressed directly to her. The handwriting matched the journal. Emma unfolded the letter. It read, "The purpose of this journal was never to predict your future. It was to bring you back to your past." Tears filled her eyes. For years, Emma had felt disconnected, alone, as if she came from nowhere. Now she held the missing pieces of her family story. She finally understood who she was and where she belonged. The journal had never been about fate. It had been about identity. As the sun disappeared beyond the horizon, Emma returned home. The journal rested on the passenger seat beside her. When she arrived at her apartment, she opened it one final time. The pages were blank. Every word had vanished. Every prediction was gone. Only one sentence remained. Your story is yours now. Emma smiled, closed the journal, and placed it on a shelf. Months later, her life continued. Not because she knew the future, but because she finally understood her past. And somewhere, perhaps on another rainy morning, another person might open their front door and discover an old journal waiting quietly on the doorstep, with their name written inside.